should know. I have never really liked you at all. I cannot hide it anymore. I've been thinking about the future, trying to forget about the past. So many ways that I could change for the better. Don't
This is a true crime discussions channel. We speculate. This is all just speculation. Because it's true crime, it's for mature audiences only. There will be no children allowed, no exceptions. Everything on this channel falls under fair use. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It's free. Hey, y'all. I hope you're all doing well today. Cara and Bad Girl and Rubber Ramada and Trixie, my love. Sandra and Marie Dieter. Thank you so much for being here, love. Sarah and Jenny Jen. Hi. I hope you all are doing good today. Today's subject is a hard one. Alieen Wuronos, I watched a movie a while back. She's actually one of the only unalivers that I ever felt sorry for. I really did. And I have a question, and I think today's going to be a great discussion because, hold on just a second. Children arguing, I apologize. So she's one of the only ones I ever felt sorry for. And I question, was it nature or nurture? Because her childhood was not that great. Hey, Darlene Johnson, thank you so much for being here. So with that, I'm going to pull this up. I've got some things going on in here. This is at my house. So yeah, I don't know, because of her childhood, I have to take that into consideration. And I have a lot of questions. I think that what she did had more to do with
living rough
with what happened to her during her childhood. If y'all could, I sincerely apologize. I need 1 minute. I'm going to put that right here and I'll be right back. Okay. So this is called The Disturbing Childhood of Alieen Wuronos from Snapped, and it's from Felony Files. Please give them a like and subscribe. Trigger warning in advance. Thank you, Jen. I am going to have to play some background music, unfortunately, at least with this clip. I've got another one from a creator that I'm hoping doesn't strike. I don't know. I emailed her before and asked if she minds if I use it, and hopefully she won't mind. Yeah, Bad Girl, I agree. Not an excuse, but it's not hard to see how she got where she did in life. We're going to look at kind of how she got there. And yeah, I don't know. I feel sorry for her, but my opinions might change by the end of this. Who knows? So this starts off December 1989 in Daytona Beach, Florida.
It's winter 1989. Daytona Beach, Florida is a safe, quiet city where most homicides come from the drug trade, the cocaine cowboys.
During this time, they were braided rugs on ships, cargo ships, and they would take them under the boat and come up from the south, like Mexico, Puerto Rico. I don't know about Puerto Rico, maybe not Puerto Rico, but they would come up in ships and drop them off the Florida coast, and people would bring it in. Oh, thank you, Trixie.
On December 13th,
You're sick? I hope you feel better, honey. I'm sorry, Darlene. I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better, honey. Oh. Okay, what are y'all saying? Sarah, who's going to school for criminal psychology, I believe, says the nature versus nurture is an age-old debate among psychologists. As time went on, we learned that so much more is at play: genetics, culture, environment, attachments, and so much more. Yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about. Darlene said, I always felt bad for her. She never had a chance in life, and it made her angry and bitter. Not an excuse for what she did, but maybe a contributing factor. Yes. Yeah. I agree very much with that statement. Abellis, Darlene wasn't feeling good, honey. Zio, we love your face too. Zio gave me some spreadsheets on, like, they're amazing on Sebastian Rogers, like the timeline of interviews and stuff. They're pretty amazing. I don't talk about Sebastian Rogers, but we might talk about their spreadsheets.
Wuronos, I always looked at it as a stack of dominoes, if you will.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it too, a stack of dominoes that just kind of fell into place and made this happen. Kara said, I feel bad for her because I do believe that some of her victims were horrible, horrible people. I know some of her victims had DV abuse against them. You're right about that. I feel bad for the officer. There is an officer that she unalived, and he was seeking a lady because his wife was in a wheelchair and unable to do that anymore. And I actually felt bad for that man. He seemed like he really wasn't. I don't know. The way I watched a movie about it a long time ago, and the way they portrayed him in particular made me feel bad for him. Sarah said, I always lean towards the hybrid approach. So many circumstances come into play. Yes, they absolutely do. I want us to think about the time period. I mean, this was probably, it said it a minute ago, but during that time period, you know, spanking your children, punishments were a lot different back then. I'll say it like that. And for somebody to say that he was hard on them, I mean, you have to imagine what kind of punishments exactly were going on in that household, because at that time it was acceptable to spank your child in the store for, you know, crying over a piece of candy, more so than it is today. I would say it like that, maybe not by everybody, but more so than it is today to see something like that. CPS was in its infancy, things like that. Monster was a great movie, and that was the movie that I saw that made me feel sorry for that one man and think about this nature versus nurture thing. I did not see that. Zio sent me a lot of stuff about this, and maybe we can go through it. Hey, Bama Cat, thank you for being here. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that statement. But like back then, I mean, this time period is when they started making child protective services because of what was going on in some households. Yes, thank you, Abellis. That's a great way to put it. Teachers used to beat kids right in the classroom. Yes, this is that time period. So that's kind of what I'm referencing, how it was more acceptable. Thank you for that, Abellis.
And he would whip.
That's really sad to hear that she was so confused that she thought the way to get attention and love was to use her body. That's really sad to hear for anybody to experience that. I mean, she just, there's some other things, and I don't know if they're going to talk about all of the things in this video, but if you watch the movie Monster, it goes more into it. I mean, she had been being abused for quite a while by this time, from what I've understood. Oh, hey, Tiana. Okay, nice to see you. In Alabama, they use corporal punishment in schools unless you write a letter to say not to. I did not know that. DeSantis reinstated that? Oh, my goodness. Darlene says, I'm in Texas and paddling is allowed here at school, but the parents have to say it's okay. Oh, my goodness. Thank you, Zio. Incest started around age 10. So by the age of 12, she was already being abused and confusing a sexual act for love and trying to get attention that way.
At age 13.
Have anything to do with her. None of her friends, they all turned against her.
Now, back in this day, again, they used to, if a young lady got pregnant, they would send them off basically to a nunnery, and they were punished for being pregnant, and they would give birth, and the nuns would take the babies and put them up for adoption. And they didn't really have a choice in the matter. And it was like swept under the rug. If your family found out you were pregnant, they would send you away, and they would say, you know, that you were at a family member's house for some months. And then you would come back after you had the baby like nothing had happened. And during this time period, if somebody found out that you were there, you, like she said, you were looked down upon. Nobody would talk to you. People thought that you were gross or nasty or something was wrong with you. And I'm glad that we've come a lot further as a society to not look at things like this. And it sucks that we were ever at a point in our society to look down on things like this. And the fact that she was raped and that's how that happened makes it even worse.
It was awful.
At one point, she lived in the woods for like a couple of years, and her friends would bring her food. And this is when she was young, like early teens, from what I remember. And the people, her grandparents or whoever just didn't care. They knew she was in the woods and just let her stay there, and she would be out there freezing. And her friends would bring her food and blankets and try to make sure she was at least, had something to eat and a little warm. But she was literally sleeping in the woods in a tent for, I think it was like a long time, like at least a year or two. About it, she got kicked out. So I was wrong about that. She had gotten kicked out of the house and wasn't allowed back in the home and was sleeping in the woods when it was freezing outside. So she did what she had to do to eat. This is why I feel sorry for her, because I couldn't imagine having to go through all of these things and then grow up and something not be wrong, especially in this time period. Now, does that excuse what she did? Absolutely not. But this is horrendous.
At the age of 20, Wuronos leaves Michigan for good, then hitchhikes to Florida.
Alieen,
Now, all this is going on in Michigan. Like, I'm going to look up and I'll tell you in a second, but imagine winters in Michigan and you're in a tent, sleeping in a tent, because you're not allowed back in your house. She meets this woman in July of 1986, and they were together for 4 years. And during that time period is when all of these things happened. But Alieen was also on substances and drinking while this happened as well. It is brave for women to hitchhike, but it's more scary now than it was back then. Again, the time period, it was almost normal for people to hitchhike. Unfortunately, now people have learned the dangers. Despite her sad life, Alieen still smiled and laughed easily. She did. Hey, Red Act Ed. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, everybody hitchhiked in the 70s. They absolutely did. And now we know how dangerous it is, but it was very common at that time period. I was going to go into the first unaliving that she did could have possibly been self-defense. But in that moment, something snapped. And the way it's portrayed is that she kind of realized she didn't have to give up her body to get money or, plus all of the hostility she had towards all the men in her life. Add those things together, the substances, the drinking, all of the horrible things that happened in her life. She kind of snapped, and it wasn't always self-defense. But again, they even talk about how many times she had been raped in her life. And back then, even today, what if somebody steals your rugs? Are you going to go to the cops and be like, hey, they stole my rugs? A woman of the night going to the cops, hey, he raped me. They're going to tell you to get out of the office. Are you crazy? What? No, I'm not. I don't care, basically, especially in this time period. So what was she going to do? Eventually you're going to get tired of getting hurt physically, and you're going to do something. Now, whether she snapped after she did it the first time is up for debate, but some of these are they look more like self-defense. So that was from the felony files. Let me see, because I've got another video. I'm going to see if she emailed me back real quick. I emailed her. I hope to goodness that she'll not be mad at me for using it. I don't think she will. We'll see. I don't think she'd strike me. I think she just asked me to take it down. This is from a YouTuber. Hold on. I hate when it does that. It goes back. So this is from a YouTuber by the name of Chasing Truth. I've actually watched a lot of her other stuff that did not have to do with stuff like this. I didn't know she did stuff like this. honestly, and I have emailed her. Let me show you her channel. Please give her a like and subscribe. Hold on just a second. So this is what her channel looks like. I'm hoping that she'll email me if she has a problem with me using her video and like ask me to take it down, because I will. But this is her channel. And she did a lot of stuff about unalivers, and actually her videos, the funds go to I think this one goes to EquiSearch of Texas. I don't know if it says it on there. Yeah, it says fundraiser right here. So like everything raised from this video goes to EquiSearch of Texas, and maybe I can get with her and give her a donation for that or something. But I'm going to try to use it. Hopefully she won't get mad. She wrote, her description is: an abused child who later earned her living as a sex worker, Alieen Wuronos, was found guilty of killing 6 men and was later executed in a Florida prison. And the title of this video is The Story of Alieen Wuronos. I will drop her in the description box below. I'm going to turn the music off because, again, I really don't think that she'll strike me. I think if anything, she would just ask me to take it down. Let us pray. So, excuse me. Hold on just a second. Please give Chasing Truth a like and subscribe. And again, this is her video, The Story of Alieen Wuronos. It states, Alieen Wuronos, so it's quoting a statement that she made. And Alieen Wuronos said, there is no point in sparing me. It's a waste of taxpayer money. So this was after she was in jail, before she was going to be executed. Thank you for subbing to Chasing. Trixie said Chasing is awesome. I think she is. I don't think she'll strike me, but if she needs me to take it down, I will certainly do that. Thank you, Cara, for subbing to her as well. Hey, True Crime Addict, thank you for being here. That quote, yeah, and it just tells you about her state of mind. Like, I mean, this story, we could go for days on Alieen Wuronos. Like I said at the beginning, she's the only one one of the only ones I've ever felt sorry for.
You want to know why I killed? You want to know how it happened? You want to know why I did what I did? Mallory was the first. He was a mean motherfucker. He asked me if I wanted to smoke a joint, and I told him I don't really smoke, but he should do.
Now, I've emailed her and asked her if I could use the video, and I haven't spoke to her, but I know that she does like Chat GPT will like tell her, like she'll print out stuff of what to say. And so I don't know if she used Chat GPT or if she's quoting directly from Alieen Wuronos, but right now she's speaking from the perspective of being, okay. I was like, she's speaking from the perspective of being Alieen Wuronos. I was like, I thought you wrote, nope, you're not giving her credit. She'll strike you. I was like, I hope not. If she needs me to take it down or stop playing it, if she'll just let me know, I will immediately.
To do whatever he felt like doing. It didn't bother me. We had some drink, and I don't know what kind of liquor it was. And then I asked him if he wanted to help me make some money, and he was interested. So we stopped someplace out on US 1. We spent the night drinking. And then he says, do you want to make your money now? We were in the front seat. He was hugging and kissing me. Then he starts to push me down. Wait a minute, I told him. Get cool. You don't have to get rough, you know. Let's just have fun. He tells me he's been waiting for this all night long. So I told him, well, I take my money first. He says he wants to see how the merchandise fits and unzips his pants. And he tells me, why don't I disrobe? Why do I still have clothes on? And then he's gonna fuck me. He's gonna fuck me here and now. I told him no.
Let me give y'all a trigger warning. And just to put this out there, I did not know that she even did this. Like I said a second ago, I didn't know that she did these interview or, going through the files of known unalivers. And I just found it like 2 hours before the live. If I had known that she did this, I would have emailed her last night. So the email's on short notice, but hopefully she'll see it. Hey, Anders, thank you so much for being here. Oh, goodness. I hope not, Anders. Are you cold, love?
No, you're not just gonna fuck me. And he starts to get violent, the son of a bitch. He's holding me down. He's gonna try to rape me. My bag was unzipped. I wanted to make sure that if things got ugly, I could use my gun. He was gonna rape me, take my money, beat me up, whatever the hell he was gonna do. I jumped out of the car with my bag and grabbed the gun. Get out of the car. What? What's going on? You son of a bitch. I know you were gonna rape me. No, I wasn't. You knew you were gonna try and rape me, man. I shot him. Shot him right in the arm. I didn't aim, but then I shot him another 3 or 4 times. He begged for help. I didn't know what to do. I figured if I help this guy and he lives, he's gonna tell on me, and I'm gonna get it for attempted murder. So I thought the best thing to do was just keep shooting him. And then I thought, hell, he deserves to die. He deserves to die what he tried to do to me. If I don't kill him, he'll try to shoot me, and then maybe he'll go and rape someone else. So I watched him die. Same thoughts went through my head every time I killed someone. The guy with the 45, I shot him more than 9 times. I was pissed off when I found the gun on top of the car. Fucking.
She's doing a really good job of reading this. Again, I'm assuming this was written by Alieen. Hey, Joy, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate y'all all being here and having this discussion with us today.
Bastard, you were gonna blow my brains out. He called me a bitch and started getting physical, and I shot him in the back seat of the car. I reloaded the gun and shot him some more. And then I drove to 52 and dumped the body. I know, I'm probably looking at death, but I just want to get right with God. I don't have a family, so I don't understand the pain I caused the family of these guys. When my stepmother, actually my grandmother, died, my stepdad, grandfather, wouldn't let me stay at home. I was living on the street. I had lots of guys, maybe 10, 12 a week. On a normal day, would just do it by the side of the road, behind a building, off the road in the woods if they wanted it all. I was used to sex. Kids at school used to fuck me. So did my own brother.
I mean, this is giving you some insight back into her childhood. And after we listen to this part about her childhood, I'm going to ask y'all what you think. If you think that played a role, if you think that she was born to do this, if you think that she, like, all of these things happening to her made her what she was, because I definitely think she played a role. Thank you for being thumbs up number 8, True Crime Addict. If y'all don't mind, please hit the thumbs up. It helps us get out into the algorithm. Yes, her brother. Now that Chasing Truth said that, I remembered that it was her brother too. It's been a long time since I watched the movie, but I know her. She had been being abused, and I thought it was the grandfather or the father, but I think her brother too. I remembered hearing about the guys at school who would do it. I mean, everybody was just abusing her, and all she wanted was like love, attention, affection at that point in life, in my opinion.
Really inside, right inside me, I'm a good person. I've been with loads of men. I've gone through at least 250,000 guys in my life. I became good friends with some of them. They really liked me. They always wanted to see me again. But when the Johns started messing with me, I'd get just as violent as they would get on me. I'd love to tell that to their families. I know they must think I'm a stupid bitch, but what they have to realize is no matter how much they love the people that died, no matter how much they love them, they were bad people. They were going to hurt me. They have to realize this fact, that this person, no matter how much they love them or how good they felt the person was, this person was going to physically beat me up, rape me, or kill me. I just turned it around and did my fair play before I got hurt, see?
And she had been hurt, raped, beat, all kinds of things. Indie Girl said, I do think she's a product of her environment. However, I do think she used it as an excuse to get out her anger from the years. I can definitely see that. I can see that. I see someone that was ignored and criticized. Yeah, for sure. For sure, Red Act Ed. I think it was the environment, not nature in her case. All right, Abellis, definitely. I have some empathy for her, actually. I think her experience in life played a big role. Yep, I agree, Anders. Absolutely.
They started getting radical on me, and I just did what I had to do. I've been betrayed my whole fucking life, you know. My parents betrayed me, my grandparents, men betrayed me, the fucking cops betrayed me, even friends. I've had enough shit in my life. I mean, what about the cops? Lying, cheating motherfuckers. I was cleaning the streets up for them. And now, a raped woman gets executed. You are all an inhumane bunch of lying men and bitches. Go ahead, put me in the electric chair. You're all gonna get nuked in the end.
This is from The Life of Alieen Wuronos. I'm going to get Chasing's link and put it in the description box as well. I'm going to try to put it in the comment section, but like I said, it don't like to let me get into my lives from my phone for whatever reason. Zayo said that she's a product of her environment. Yep, I think so. I think that it was her life experience played a big role in it for sure. Rubber said, how can a person live day to day thinking someone's going to hurt her? But wait, sounds very borderline personality disorder to me from personal experience. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that, honey, if that's what you were saying. Yeah, it could be. But I mean, again, if whatever mental issue she has, I question, how could you not have some mental things going on with all those things happening to you? You know what I mean? But for sure, I can definitely agree with that too. And yeah, Red Act Ed, great point. Rubber, that wasn't even a thing back then, right? So she very well could have been borderline personality disorder, but would she have been properly diagnosed? Great points. I'm loving this discussion.
We're going to talk today about Alieen Wuronos. I'm going to refer to her as Lee.
Look, it's Chasing.
We're going to tell her story. How did she end up being a female serial killer? So in order to know the end of the story, we're going to start at the beginning of the story. The beginning is Alieen was born February 29th on a Wednesday in Michigan, 1956. She was born to teenage parents, Diane Wuronos and Dale Pittman. It's been said that her mother was between the ages of 14 and 16 when she gave birth to her, and her dad was 19. His grandparents, Dale's grandparents, had to lie about their ages because they were underage. So they had already had one son, Keith, who was 2 years older than Alieen was. And right before giving birth to Lee, Diane and Dale split up. Dale was a troubled guy. He was diagnosed schizophrenic. He was in and out of jail, and he ended up with life in prison. The reason he ended up with that was because he kidnapped, raped, and attempted to murder a 7-year-old child. So he was sentenced to life in prison. While in prison, he fashioned a noose out of a bed sheet and he hung himself. So instead of taking responsibility and doing life, he ended it. He sounds like a really, really sweet guy. When Alieen was about 4 years old, her mother dropped her off at her grandparents' house with her brother and asked them to babysit. They said yes. And a short time later, she called crying, saying that she would not be returning. And she never did. So now Alieen is 4 years old. Lee's 4 years old. She's never met her father. He was in prison before she was born.
So I did drop her link in the description box. I cannot access the live, but I can edit the description. And I did drop Chasing Truth into the description box. Chasing is so classy. Rubber said we were not DX back then diagnosed. I was told I had hormone problems. It was 2000. I've learned to deal with borderline personality disorder. I'm sorry you have to deal with that. And yeah, see, that was 2000. And you got to think this was late 70s, early 80s, or, 1984 to 86 at least. Sarah said personality disorders are finally starting to be better understood. She would absolutely have abnormal attachment disorder given her childhood, in my humble opinion. I definitely agree with that, Sarah. Thank you, Zio. Zio also dropped Chasing's link in the chat box. Thank you so much for doing that. Well, I mean, I'm sorry you have to deal with that. I've learned to deal with bipolar, but I do take supplements. I don't take pharmaceuticals, but I take doTERRA essential oils. But I'm glad that you have learned to deal with that. All of these things that happen to us due to childhood traumas or traumas in general, it just all sucks all the way around.
And her mother has now dropped her off at her grandparents' house and never returns again. So
Jenny said the abandonment plays a big part. Unpopular opinion, the Smex was a release of emotions and weight of living. Once she found out what love truly was, I believe that's where the frustration came out. That's a good point. And that's very possible. I've never correlated it to being, I've never correlated it to happening after she actually fell in love with her wife or girlfriend. That is a really good point and possibility. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, a new way to release all that built up emotions. Right. That's a great point. Very possible.
In 1960, Lori, which is her grandfather, and Britta, her grandmother, adopted the two children. They did not tell them that they were adopted or that they were in fact their grandparents. So as far as the kids knew, these were their parents. Lori, the grandfather, was a heavy drinker, a heavy disciplinarian. He worked hard. He worked at a Ford factory. So he would work all day. He would come home. He would drink. And he would find a reason to discipline the children. And it's been said that he kept a leather belt hanging behind his door. And in most of these cases where you're talking about a serial killer or a deranged person, many of them were abused as children. And it's no different for Lee. She claims that when she was disciplined, she was the one who had to soak down and condition the leather belt. She would be forced to lay naked, spread eagle on her face, while being beaten by her grandfather. He would say things to her like, "You're worthless. You're not worth the air that you're breathing." And it could be a small thing that she did or something big. She was kind of an unruly kid.
I mean, could you imagine though, like, number one, the extra torment of having to condition the leather of the belt that's about to beat your ass. Number one, like that adds a whole nother level of torment. And then lying naked, spread eagle on the bed, like the humiliation in that, I don't know what the word is. It's D something that I'm looking for, but the humiliation in that, dehumanizing her. That's it. Dehumanizing her to the point of making her lay naked, spread eagle, and then adding an extra element of dehumanization by saying you're worthless. You're not worth the air you breathe. Like, what? That's so sad and so sick.
Kid who
It does, bad girl.
had something inside of her that pushed her to disobey.
Degradation.
But it's also been said that he had a very bad temper and he would discipline them for the slightest of things. So who really knows? The neighborhood said that it was a very private family. Nobody really knew a lot about Lori and Britta or the children. They would keep the curtains tightly closed. Nobody was invited over. They didn't have, guests for dinner or people around to get to know them. They were just very private people. When Lee was about 6 years old,
Anders, I've heard that he did as well, or her father, her grandfather or her father, but I'm not positive on that. I'm sure Chasing will mention it or let us know about it, because I could be wrong on that. I know her brother did, but I think there was, because her father went to prison for SA or something to that effect. So I think it was more like a family thing, but I'm not positive. I know her brother did it, like I said. I could be wrong about the father or the grandfather.
She became fascinated with lighter fluid and matches. And she ended up lighting her face and, parts of her body on fire accidentally. And she ended up with some scars. And of course, she was, disciplined for this because she's a 6-year-old child playing with matches and lighter fluid, which is extremely dangerous. And she ended up getting burnt. A lot of the kids remember that she was bruised often. My assumption is from being disciplined by her grandfather. But she would come out with bruises on her face and her arms and her legs, and nobody was really concerned because,
again, bruises on her. How's she getting bruises on her face? Like, this man is beating the ever-living crap out of this child.
Nobody was very close to Lee. She was known as a kid who was there. There were a lot of kids in the neighborhood, and they would go down and hang out at this place called the Pit. They're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, whatever it is. And they would go hang out, and she would be there, but not included in what was going on with the other kids. There's a lot of the kiddie stuff happening and playing the games that kids play and flirting and, being kids. Meanwhile, some of those same kids were getting sexual favors from Lee and paying her with cigarettes. They ended up giving her the nickname the Cigarette Pig or the Cigarette Bandit. This is a little child we're talking about here, but that's the story that's been told. So that happened, and she was sexually active very, very young. It was rumored that her grandfather was having sex with her. It was also...
Okay, so there's that, where that came from. I thought I was right about that, and I'm glad that she did reiterate that. Not her father, which her father would have been in her life for a short period of time. Anyway, I remember seeing something about the little short dresses they would put her in when she was like really young, and there was a reason for that. But I don't remember where I saw that. It's been years, but it is, she just told us about the grandfather, and then I'm sure she's about to talk about the brother. And again, she just seems to be either beat or ignored. And it's really sad that all she wanted was love and affection, and eventually snapped because she went about it the wrong. I don't know. It's just, I really feel like all of this attributed to everything. I think it was all of these things balled into one that made her do what she did. And that's why I've always felt sorry for her. Yeah, Cigarette Pig. Like, why? Think about the time period, but she's one of the very few I've felt sorry for, and I always will.
Also widely known that her and her brother Keith were sexually active together. When she was around 9 years old, she again lit something on fire. And this time it badly scarred her face and her body. She was in the hospital for several days, and it was months of recovery time. The physical scars that Lee ended up with in the end, I think, are nothing compared to what her emotional scars were that propelled her a bit. You know, it's not the only reason, but it propelled her a bit to become who she became, right?
Darlene said, what did I miss? I had to step away for a few minutes. I got a new kitty and I'm having to bottle feed him. Aw. Apparently he wasn't quite old enough. I don't know what happened to the mother. The mother dropped her off at the grandparents' house and said that the grandparents were just going to babysit. And then the mother said, I'm sorry, I'm never coming back. The father unalived himself in prison, and she's been living with her grandfather, who was abusing her physically and sexually. Her and her brother were active together, from what Chasing just said, but either way, it's abuse for both of them, actually. And we are watching Chasing Truth. I dropped her in the description box. She is in the comment section below. Please give her a like and subscribe. She is the lady you see speaking. I emailed her beforehand, but it was short notice, so I'm hoping she won't get mad.
Around age 11, Lee learned that the only parents she had ever known, Lori and Britta, were not her parents at all. And again, Lee was an unruly kid already. She was a kid who wasn't going to always follow the rules. So combine that with now feeling deceived and fooled, and now she's really angry because this man who's abusing her physically, sexually, emotionally, verbally, isn't even her dad. Not that it would make it any better if it was.
But again, the time period, like, this is a time when you had what's the word? Not dynamic, but the household was the mother and the father, and then the children. And if it wasn't that, if you had a divorce, you were looked down upon. Like we talked about, when she got pregnant and had a child, you were sent away to a nunnery, basically, to have the child and then come back. Those things were swept under the rug. Nuclear was the word I was looking for. This was a time period when it was a nuclear family. So I imagine that she was feeling like, you know, on top of the sexual abuse and the emotional abuse and every abuse that I'm suffering, now to find out that this man is not even my father, it makes it even worse, because it makes me stand out more. It's more of a situation that is abnormal for me, for not to not have him, you know, be living with my mother and father, or stepmother and father, would be my thought on that. Sarah said she was failed by many. If she was gotten help for the abuse, perhaps she could have thrived normally later in life. But this was setting her up for failure. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why it's so important when you talk about her to start at the beginning, in my opinion.
But she felt like she was deceived all over again. So not only was she an unruly child who didn't listen very well, now she was angry and defiant, and she began to act out. She knew she would act out and her grandparents would end up kicking her out of the house because they couldn't handle her. And at one point, around 11 years old, she was thrown out, and she went and slept in the woods with some man for a few days, exchanging her body for money. She ended up going back home, and shortly after that, she was thrown out again. And Lee did have one friend. Her name was Dawn, and Dawn stayed friends with Lee throughout her life, all the way to the very end of her life. So they would hitchhike, and you'll see that hitchhiking became a thing over Lee's entire life, all the way up till the very end. Hitchhiking was quite a thing for her. So her and Dawn.
And again, you know, the time period, 70s, maybe possibly late 60s, all the way through the 70s, early 80s. That's how everybody got around. I mean, think about Woodstock. That was 1969. Everybody hitchhiked there. It was just, you know, the thing back then. And thank God we've grown as a society and understand that that is not what we need to be doing. That is not safe at all. But, you know, it was normal back then for the most part.
Hitchhiked. They would go here and go there. And a lot of the time, Lee used her body. By this point, she was a heavy drinker.
Right.
And she discovered drugs. She's not even a teenager yet. There were mornings she would wake up and not know if she had sex or who she had sex with, if it was one partner or multiple partners. So she's doing downer drugs to numb the pain. She's drinking. She's having sex. She's hitchhiking, which is extremely dangerous. And then she would go back home and she would try to be quote unquote normal and attend school and do all of that. At around 14, she lit some toilet paper and other things on fire in the girls' bathroom. And one of her teachers said, quote, "It is vital for this girl's welfare that she seeks counseling immediately," end quote. Based on what I've told you, do you think that somebody stepped in and got counseling for Lee? If you said no, you would be correct.
Right. Again, the time period, you know, they're sending young ladies that get pregnant away to nunneries. If you went to a therapist, again, that was another thing that was looked down on. And, you know, even though somebody stepped in and said, hey, please get her some help. I mean, obviously, nobody in that household cared enough, in my opinion, allegedly speculating, that they would have done anything anyway. They were beating her and abusing her and just using her along with everybody else in her life.
Nobody did. By age 15, Lee was pregnant. There were rumors on who the dad could be. Was it Keith? Was it her grandfather? Or was it this old man down the street who I believe was a friend of her grandfather's, Mr. Porlock? He would allow Lee to come to his house to listen to his record player because they didn't have one and Lee loved music. So he would allow this. He was an old man. He would watch Lee dance around while he just sat there smiling at her. And on occasion, he would put her in his lap and give her lots of compliments and give her money in exchange for her dancing? I don't think so. So nobody ever knew, though, who the dad.
So what do y'all think? She's going down to this man's house that's a friend of her grandfather's. Again, remember the personality of the grandfather. He's drinking obsessively. He's beating her. He's sexually abusing her. And somebody that finds friendship in this man that somebody that finds friendship in this grandfather figure of hers, or father figure, that lives up the road, is letting her stay there, watching her dance to his record player and sitting her on his lap and telling her how beautiful she is and giving her money. What do you guys think was going on? I know what I think.
Dad was of the baby, and she was sent away to a home for unwed mothers. And in January of 1971, she gave birth to a baby boy. The baby was immediately taken away from her and put up for adoption.
That's what they did back then, the nunneries. They would take, I mean, immediately. Like, you were lucky if you even got to see your baby. It would depend on the basically the nun that was there when you gave birth. Red Act Ed said, I grew up in a church that sponsored a girls' home for pregnant women. Those women weren't allowed to keep their babies. The babies were adopted out. Yep. You were sent away. You gave birth at the girls' home. And it was basically ran by nuns. And while you were there, they would teach you how to be a lady and just, I mean, more abuse, in my opinion. And then you gave birth, and you were lucky if you even got to lay eyes on your child. They were immediately swept away, given up for adoption. You had a short period of time to heal, and then you went back home. And meanwhile, your family at home is telling everybody in the neighborhood or at school that's asking where you're at that you've gone to visit a cousin or uncle out of state for a few months and that you'll be back in a little while. And then you go back and they act like nothing ever happened. But, you know, in her situation, nobody cared if they knew that she was actually with child or not. So everybody knew that she was with child, and therefore when she came back, everybody in the school picked on her and talked about her and said she was nasty and all of the things that they would do. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Rubber. I didn't mean to highlight that. I'm so sorry that you went through that. She said it broke her heart that she couldn't hold her son. Bad girl said. Bad girl said. She said it broke her heart that she couldn't hold her son. I absolutely agree with that statement. I didn't know that she had said that, but yeah, could you imagine giving birth and not even being able to hold your child? Like, and the trauma. Again, just more trauma, more trauma, more trauma, more pain, more trauma.
Think about that. There is a man, maybe now, walking around who is the child
Yep.
of Alieen Wuronos. She never did get to see the kid again, and she moved on. In July of that same year, her grandmother passed away. And there's not a lot known about her grandmother. You know, did she know what was going on in the house? Did she allow what was happening to Lee and her brother? I don't know. But when she passed away, it sent Lori over the edge. He went to his basement. He put several inches of water in the basement. And then he stood there with the power on, trying to electrocute himself and end his life, but it didn't work. So he came up with another idea to gas himself in his car in his garage. And that did work. Lee claims that she found him, but later, much later in the years after Lee is caught for doing the things that she did, his biological son said he's the one who found him. And you'll notice a pattern here with Lee. She'll tell a story, and then there's a different account of the story.
Again, she's referring to Alieen as Lee.
The things that I can find out about her childhood, a lot of it did come from people who spoke up after she had been arrested. The things about the bruises and having sex with all of these people.
Red Act Ed, I am so sorry. Red Act was saying that the girls in those places would cry for their babies. And Red Act said, I've heard those girls speak in church begging whoever adopted my baby, please let me hold my baby one last time. It's horrible, and I'm sorry. I know that's triggering, but that is what happened back then. And Abellis brought up some of the stories I've looked into that are just horrible about those places. God bless anybody who had to go through that. They were not nice to these girls. I mean, you know, just like in any profession, there's really mean ones and there's nice ones. And there were some that would feel bad and let them hold their baby, but they would be punished by Mother Superior. So they were not mean because, you know, you're going to a nunnery. And so these women are looking at you like you're spawn of Satan because you're pregnant at 16, whatever. And they treated them horribly. They didn't care if they cried for their babies. I mean, again, probably not all of them, but the majority did.
And not really being cared about in the community by the other kids. So those are verifiable things that we know very likely happened. I don't know for sure if her grandfather was sexually abusing her or not, but Lee says she showed up to his funeral simply to blow smoke in his face and to leave. So now Lee was basically on her own. That was it. She started traveling, hitchhiking again. That was her thing. And many times she was arrested in the coming years. She was arrested for things like
Red Act and Cara, I'm so sorry, you guys. And this is a hard thing to talk about. I'm sending you all love and hugs.
Like disorderly conduct, drunk driving, and one time for shooting a gun out of a moving vehicle. During her adventures, she ends up meeting Louis Gratz-Fell. He is a 69-year-old multimillionaire. He's like the president of a yacht club, and he made these investments. And he is driving and he picks up this beautiful blonde. And let me say this, Lee didn't look like what we saw in the movie Monster or what we saw of her later on in life. She had gone through quite a bit by the time we saw her that way.
Right. You saw the picture of her a few minutes ago when I was playing the other clip, and you can see her over here. She was absolutely stunning in her earlier days. The picture you see on my thumbnail and of her in prison, she's gone through a lot, obviously. And, you know, living a lifestyle like that, it wears on you and ages you very quickly.
She was very pretty. She had a beautiful body, nice smile. She seemed charming. What lied beneath was something completely different. But Lewis was kind of smitten with her. And very quickly, he gave her a huge engagement ring, asked her to marry him, and she said yes. Lewis was looking for a wife. He was looking for someone who would be at home, somebody he could put on his arm, be proud to bring out. That definitely was not going to be Lee. Lee was looking for security, and it seems she always found older men. Always. But this time, she married him, and she was not prepared to change in the least bit. Nothing was going to change for her. He wanted her to be at home.
Can we imagine if that had happened, like how this story would be so much different? We probably would never even know her name unless we're looking up, you know, bloodlines of the rich and famous or something. It would have been so nice if she could, I mean, you know, I know he's a much older guy, but like, as long as the relationship wasn't abusive, if she could have just maybe settled down, her life would have been so much different. But if she didn't love him, then it wasn't going to last anyway. And I don't think she did. Anders said, what was the movie called? The Monster? Yeah, it's called The Monster. Yes. I think it's just Monster. Yeah. Thank you, Abellis. That's the first movie I saw on this case, and I was like, whoa. And I think somebody said in the comments section earlier, they shouldn't have given her the death penalty, and I agree. Maybe life in prison, but I don't think they should have unalived her for what she did. There's just so much that led up to that. I want to make it clear too, I don't want to excuse her actions. I just want to say that I don't know how I would have handled all the things that she handled in her life. And, you know, I don't know if I would have done things differently. Thank God I'm not in that situation. And I hate that anybody ever even had to be. And I question how they would handle it and if it would be much different.
So he says to her one time, you need to be respecting your elders. And for that, she punched him in his face and left him with a black eye. So you would think Lewis would have learned right then and there, but he did not. He tried another trick. He tried to talk to her, to tell her what he needed and that he would appreciate her being at home. But Lee was not one to be at home, period. So she really enjoyed dive bars, really. She wanted to go out. She wanted to play pool. She wanted to hear music. She wanted to flirt. And that's exactly what she did. One night, she ends up in this bar called Bernie's Club. And she's pretty intoxicated at this point. She's playing pool. She's flirting with men and women and everybody. And the more she drinks, the worse things get.
I'm so glad you made it back home, my lovely Zayo.
She gets louder and more arrogant, more boisterous. She's causing kind of a scene for no reason. And people complained, and the manager came over and said, that's it, this pool table's closed. And he and Lee began to argue. And Lee's a fighter.
I've asked y'all to sub to Chasing Truth, which is who we're watching right now in this video, and I've dropped her in the description box. Rubber Ramada said, that's why I want to start my own channel. I've got so much knowledge from my own life That's why I want to do true crime mixed with mental health. And we support Rubber Ramada. I have already subscribed several weeks ago. So if you guys would please give her a like and subscribe as well. And Zio, of course. Zio just put out some of the Sarah Boone jail files. So if you guys want to see those, go check her out as well.
She enjoys it. So the manager was kind of bewildered with her. Why are you freaking out? You know, it's time for you to go. And he turns his back to walk away, and she picks up a pool cue and throws it at his head, the cue ball, you know. And somebody yells, duck. And luckily he did, because the ball became lodged in the wall. That's the amount of force she used to throw the ball at this man. So, of course, he called the police. And
could you imagine if he hadn't ducked? Because it probably would have got lodged in his head. I mean, you think about somebody's skull compared to a wall. I think the wall is going to be a little bit harder, especially the wall in a bar. Bad Girl said, they said she was a mean drunk. Her true emotions came out, in my opinion. Yeah, and you got to think about the, what is it? Oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. But the fact that her father was a drunk and her grandfather was a drunk, the addiction factor ran in her family. You are working on your first big one. Thank you for dropping Rubber Ramada, Zio. And I don't know who else you dropped. That's probably your video. Yeah, she dropped Rubber Ramada and she dropped her video. And again, Chasing Truth is in the description box. Thank you, love.
She was arrested, and her friend went through Lee's bag and found $1,400 and was able to bail her out.
Thank God.
And of course, her husband was not happy with this. You know, my wife is out here in bars getting arrested and being drunk. So he ends up telling her, like he had told other wives when he had issues with them, I will cut your allowance. And for that, she beat him with his own cane. He is a 69-year-old man, and Lee beat him in his own home with his cane. He immediately filed for an annulment. They had not been married very long, and a restraining order. Now you'd think Lee's security is being upset and she would be beside herself, but she didn't care. She went to the pawn shop, she pawned the ring, and a couple of days later, her brother Keith passed away from throat cancer. She ends up going to the funeral just in time as it was ending to put a rose in his hand. And, you know, while she's there, strangely, and there's not a lot that I've found about this part, her mother was there. Diane was there. She came in. She flew in from Texas for her son's funeral. How she knew about it, I don't know. But I really wanted to know, did the two women talk? Did she ever get the answer of why? But I don't know that part. In any case, now.
That's an interesting, I've never heard that. I would love to know the answer to that as well. Yeah, very much. How traumatic. Yeah. Oh, Abellis, you know she pawned that ring. And it was probably worth a lot of money because he was a millionaire.
Now her brother's gone too. Lee is truly alone. Her husband is now gone. She's still drinking. She's by herself. So Lewis, you know, moved on. A couple days later, or a couple weeks later, a $10,000.
So now you can see this photo of her from around that time or shortly after, or, you know, whatever. You could see the pictures of her up until now after her brother died where she looked beautiful. Now you can start to see how things are wearing on her. She's truly alone. Her brother has died. She's going to go into a state of depression and substance abuse that, I was wiping my keyboard off and it decided to go crazy. she's going to sink deeper into her addictions and substance abuses and things like that at this point, and you can see how it's wearing on her. Lee and Keith look exactly alike. Yeah, they did, especially when they were children.
$1 life insurance policy comes through from her brother to her. So now she's got $10,000. It's a pretty good amount of money for back then.
That is her girlfriend, is what they're saying. That's on the other side. Alieen is on the left, and Tyra is on the right.
She puts a down payment on a black Pontiac, which is repossessed pretty quickly because she went through all of the money in a couple of months. So she has this nice car. She's drinking and driving in it, running around, and it gets repossessed. So she's back on the road, hitchhiking yet again. She finds this older man, and she actually did fall in love with this man for a bit. He had pretty kind things to say about her. There was nothing bad. He did say that she had a pretty bad temper. And overall, they got along very well. So
yes, Chasing Truth is calling Alieen Lee. Because I think everyone, like Bad Girl said, yes, everyone called her Lee.
They're living together. And one night they get into this argument, and Lee was not one who could just let things go very quickly. She really was putting in a bit of effort in this relationship. So the argument from the night before, she wakes up in the morning and she's still mad. So she takes his car, she goes to the pawn shop, and she buys a gun. She then goes to a convenience store and buys some beer and some snacks. And I have notes because Lee says a lot of things, so I want to make sure that I'm quoting it properly.
I'm going to be muted, but cutting in like I have been. I've got to go in the kitchen and get this turkey in the oven so it's ready for tonight. So y'all will have to bear with me for a minute.
She says, quote, "I was fed up with living. I had no car, no money, no family, no nothing. I had tried to join the service, but you need 42 points, and I always missed by exactly 5 points, so I was just going to kill myself. I drank a case of beer and a quart of whiskey, and I took 4 Reds. I went into a store and got beer and Slim Jims. I had $118 on me."
I wonder what Reds are, if they were those things, Quaaludes. I wonder if that's what that was.
I walked up to pay, and my gun was sticking out, and the woman started screaming about how I was going to rob the store. End quote there. So this woman sees her gun, allegedly, and she thinks she's going to rob her. Now, Lee tells a lot of stories. She says a lot of things, and then you find another account where she took that back, and it's changed a bit. So I guess because the lady thought she might rob her, she said, "Oh, okay, you think I'm going to rob you? Now I'm going to rob you. Give me the money." And all the lady had was $33. So she's drunk at this point, and she takes off in the car, and the radiator blows out. Lee, mind you, is in some cutoff shorts and a bikini top at this point. So she knows the police are going to be looking for her. She ditches her shorts. Now she's in a bikini. The police come, and she's arrested for armed robbery. That's that on that. She ends up serving 14 months in the Florida Correctional Center for armed robbery. I mean, things are getting worse here for Lee.
I would love to know an account of somebody she talked to while she was in prison for 4 months. I would love to know if her personality changed, if she was a nicer person, how she acted, because you couldn't get anything in there. I mean, back then you could get cigarettes, but that's going to be about it. Oh yeah, Reds, maybe Marlboro Reds. But it said it took, Chasing said she took 4 Reds. So I'm wondering if that's Quaaludes. Okay, Indie Girl, thank you so much for being here. I want to know what her personality was like during that time period when she was in prison for 14 months before she had committed these crimes. that would be pertinent to telling me if it's going to be a nature versus nurture thing.
She's disciplined in prison because she cannot follow orders. She just can't do it. It's not something that she's prepared to do. So she's...
Oh, well, if I had just kept my mouth shut and waited for a minute, maybe I would have known. So evidently she's still causing a ruckus. Thank you for telling me that.
She's fist fighting all of the time. She's not following orders. She's just doing all of the things. So she ends up getting this pen pal, a guy named Tom, right? She gets released in 1983, and Tom is used to his very sweet, nice pen pal that he's been talking to, and he allows her to move in. Well, he realized really quickly that Lee had issues that he could not deal with, but he was a nice person, so he tried to get her to go to therapy, in which she refused. She said no, she's not going to do that. And she didn't want to do that, so she quickly moved on. And she couldn't keep out of trouble. You know, she's back. She's in trouble. If we go over every single thing that Lee was in trouble for, we would be here until next week. So she forged some checks. She's skipping out on court. You know, she's wild. She's out of control. She's traveling all over the place. She's still drinking. And she meets this woman named Tony. This is going to be Lee's first lesbian relationship, Tony. Seems Tony was a bit of a con artist herself. Lee is usually the one doing things to other people, right? But this time, her and Tony begin to plan. You know, they're making plans together. And it's suggested that they buy a steam cleaning business. So they do. They buy all of the equipment and all of the stuff, and they're staying like in a motel or whatever. And one day Lee comes home. Tony's gone. The steam cleaning equipment is gone. And she leaves her like a $400 phone bill to pay. And Lee was beside herself, because typically Lee's the one, you know, going out on the road and screwing people over and taking their stuff and beating people up. But this time, it was Tony who did that to her. And she did make quite a big deal out of it. She has spoken on what happened and feels so angry that somebody took away her, what was going to be the career for the rest of her life, right?
So I have to question, was it, hey, Lindsay, thank you for being here. Hey, Reese, thank you for being here. I have to question if she was more upset that somebody got her basically one time, or if she was more upset about the business, because did she really think that this was going to be the career that she was in for the rest of her life, steam cleaning business? I don't think so. I think that she was pissed off because basically the getter got. You know what I mean? Lindsay, I don't know what you're sorry for, love, but don't be sorry. Trixie dropped Chasing's link again. Thank you so much for doing that. It's also in the description box below. Cara said, I honestly believe that Alieen was a combination of the two. She was born predisposed to addictions. Thank you, because that's what I was looking for earlier. And then she was constantly kicked down and figured she'd embrace what everyone assumed she is. Yes. Yes. I think that was left out of the movie. Chasing did her research on this, which, you know, I had no doubt watching Chasing. I mean, you know, she's not going to be putting any misinformation out here anyway. Thank you guys for being here. Hey, Hello Kitty. Thank you for being here, love. For those of you coming in, this is Chasing Truth. We are watching Alieen Wuronos. I have asked her through email, but it was kind of late if I could use her stuff, so I'm hoping she'll let me. Her link has been dropped several times, bless you, in the chat box, bless you, and in the description box, so please give her a like and subscribe.
So that happens, and now she's back out getting arrested and doing the stuff. She meets a woman named Tyria. Now, we're going to call her Ty, because that's what everybody knows her as, Ty. She meets Ty in a bar. And it starts off very awkward for the two of them. Ty is a Bible reading woman who feels that God does not want her to be in a lesbian relationship. And for whatever reason, Lee was intriguing enough for Ty to want to pursue something with her. So the two of them move in.
I dropped the link for you to come up, Rubber, if you wanted to. Bellis, it wasn't Basil this time. It was my son. But thank you. He's in the bed. Basil is. He ate a piece of a pancake and a piece of bread earlier. Hey, Rubber.
Hey.
How are you?
Hang on, let me turn off my Bluetooth thing.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Let me see if you're still
Nice
there.
and clear.
Okay, you still there?
Yep.
Okay. So my thought, I just the long thought. So the reason I had said anything about disorder, borderline personality disorder,
You're cutting out.
Of a black and white. You're cutting out. Shit. Okay, I'll come back.
Okay, baby. Let me know when you're back.
It won't even let me leave now. Can you kick me?
You're still cutting out a little bit.
Can you kick me?
Oh, yeah.
In with this couple, Cammie, and I'm not sure of the other one's name, but their last name is Green. They begin to stay with them, and Ty starts the relationship off with the truth. You know, she's telling her about her religion and her life, and Lee starts the relationship with a lie. She tells Ty that she owns a steam cleaning business, and she literally leaves the house every day with a briefcase, right? She leaves every day like she's going to work somewhere. I don't know. We know what she was doing. So one day she comes home and she's got a black eye. And she says that she was forcefully raped by somebody for 6 hours. And, you know, she escaped with her life. And Ty and Lee, I don't know if they go to the hospital. I don't know where they go, but they leave the house. Cammie Green, she doesn't believe the story. She knows that.
Hey, babe.
Okay. So what I was trying to say, am I cutting out now?
No, you're good.
Okay. So what I was trying to say was with the borderline personality disorder, a lot of it is black and white. So either they love you in the moment or they hate you in the moment. And with BPD, you can't see a gray area like, well, they're just mad for right now. They'll get over it. So that was the reason I kept saying anything about borderline personality disorder, because I see it so much of either it's in the now, they love me now, or they hate me now. So
right.
With that, that's what I see a lot with Alieen Wuronos, is that it's the black or white thing. She doesn't see a gray area. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's very plausible as well that that's what's going on, because it does. I mean, it would explain the starve for attention, because if you're not getting ambushed with love or lump bombed and you feel like you're not, if that makes you feel like you're not loved at all, you're going to go to extraordinary measures to get that attention.
Right. You do. You reach out in ways, again, going to the bars, finding that extra marital sometimes activity that, you know, you get into and stuff, because you're searching for that immediate need of love. And that's why I say I may go back and I might use Chasing Stream to do one on Alieen, so I can voice my opinion better when I get my thoughts back together. But that's what I was wanting to say, was that I just see a lot. And then we weren't diagnosed back then. In the 70s, it was not a thing.
Right. Yep.
So things have changed so much, and we've come a long way. And looking back at the cases now and being able to see things now that wasn't discussed back then about it, what could have been done different. So anyways.
Right. Yeah, I appreciate that. If you want to use her stream, I did email her. I would advise emailing her, but I don't think that she's a streamer.
I've popped into Chasing's chats quite a few times. I think she's very open to us using her streams and stuff, so long as we give her credit.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing that perspective. And if you want to stay up, you can. That's up to you. But it makes sense. And you describing it that way makes me wonder if, again, because we know that she requested the death penalty. And I would wonder if that would go back to the borderline personality disorder, because she's like, there is no gray, just get it over with.
Yep, exactly. That's how, and in my mind, before I was able to get treatment and get on the right path, I would have easily said, you know what, just get me the hell out of here. Whatever it takes, just get me out. Give me the easy way out. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Right. Let's go.
Yep. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you shared that.
So.
Zayo says, love your face and content as always. Thank you. Thank you for being a member for a month. And hello, Sally Carson. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying. Absolutely.
That there's something not right here. So as soon as they leave, she opens the briefcase, and inside she finds only men's business cards and condoms. So she tries to tell Ty, who's a friend of hers, this is what's in the briefcase. And Ty ignores it. She acts like it's not really a big deal. But Cammie is not happy about this situation at all.
Zayo said, actually, with borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder, and that it was central to her defense. I do have some of the documents from her, and they're because they're in Florida, it would be easier to get. Zayo has dropped some of them in the Discord, and I'm going to try to go through them when I can, if we can do another deep dive on this. Zayo said, Wuronos did not accept these diagnoses as explanation for her crimes. However, she claimed self-defense until the end.
And see, that's claiming self-defense till the end. That's...
Yeah.
Accepting a diagnosis is very, very, very hard. I have friends today that I have been, unfortunately, in hospitals, in rubber ramadas, as we like to call them, with others, hence my name. We've had some visits before with others, but they won't accept their diagnosis. And until you're able to accept a diagnosis and understand what's going on with you, it's a vicious, vicious cycle to live through.
I could only imagine. I'm sorry, I have to mute because the kids are up here by the door, but I could only imagine. And I feel so sorry for those who are not willing to accept their diagnosis. I mean, even with that diagnosis, as a symptom of the diagnosis, it would be hard to accept the diagnosis. So that really sucks.
And it does, they were talking about, alcoholism and things from her childhood and all that. Well, that's absolutely, that's, part of the stuff that I had to learn was, with the alcoholism in my family, that I felt I wasn't being loved. My dad and mom would prefer to go get drunk than show personal love. So there was a lot of learning curves when it came to family dynamics.
Yeah, and looking for love. Again, I would wonder if there's a correlation between borderline personality disorder and abandonment at a young age in life. Yes,
there's a strong correlation. You feel abandoned, you're looking for love, you're looking for love anywhere. Right. I'm not going to lie, I've been married 5 times. This is my last one. I've been here. I'm very happy. I have my diagnosis under control. I see a therapist. I take medication. I'm in a good place in life. It took me many, many years to get to that point, to be in this relationship that I am now, that he understands me. He took time to learn my diagnosis, which helps in a relationship. So a lot of these women too, dealing with this, not having a partner that is willing to learn about the mental health side of it, you know, that causes problems too.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail your chat.
No, you're good. This is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about these things. This is the aspect I wanted to go down, is the mental health aspect of it, and the possibility of other things that were undiagnosed that she had going on with it. And also, I saw Reese said something just a second ago. Reese also said those men didn't pick her up to make nice after all the assault. You figure at some point her career became hunting the hunters. And so you add that aspect to the borderline personality disorder and all of the other things, and it was just doomed from the start, I think.
Right.
I'm sorry to hear that, Indie girl. Hey, Zayo, and thank you for jumping up.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so happy I got back in time for this. This is one of my favorite discussions.
Yeah, Zayo sent me a bunch of documents on this, so she definitely has the information.
So I wanted to touch just briefly, because I know you want to get back to the video, on what Rubber Ramada was saying. So her rejection of her diagnosis, it wasn't just, I don't think it was just, how did you say it, Rubber? It was just kind of like her unwillingness to accept it. And I'm not sure that it was that. I'm sure it was like part of it, but I think it was more like a contextual factor, like distrusting authority. Because if she decided to say, yeah, this is what I have, then what they tend to do in their mind is see it as people are minimizing her, um, they're minimizing her self-perception and the way she needs to maintain control over the narrative. She needs to maintain control and say, this is me. I did this because they did this to me. So with her accepting a physiological personal issue, like, you know, or a psychological personal issue, they're demeaning her. They're taking away, she doesn't trust authority anyway. She had a long history of feeling betrayed and mistreated by everybody around her. So if she loses the power against law enforcement and the legal system, you understand what I'm saying? So they're taking away from her being able to control the narrative for herself. It's a stigma.
Exactly. I'm over here nodding my head. If you could only hear my head nodding.
Just put those rocks back in your head. And I think she frequently said that these were acts of self-defense against violent men. So if she accepted this diagnosis, it was going to weaken her argument and suggest that her actions were more influenced by her mental illness rather than self-preservation, if that makes sense.
Yes. It's always so easy when I was in the moment. It's easier for me to blame somebody else. It's never my fault. And and the only reason I did this, and I'm just speaking as a second person here, the only reason I did this was because you did this to me. So now this is what you get back, because this is all your fault.
Yeah. Well, she was a victim of, systemic abuse and injustice. And if you took that away from her, then what did she have?
Exactly.
She has to be able to be seen, as consistent for all of her struggles over her traumatic past, over her crimes and her self-identity, as her and her keeping her power. And I think that's why she did keep her power all the way to the end. No, it doesn't, Reese. Mental illness doesn't.
Right. I agree with that. I agree with what y'all are saying as well, and I appreciate you both coming up and making some really great points in this case.
Sarah, are you cussing at me?
Oh no.
No, so I was wondering what she said. She did request what? I'm not excusing anything that she did under any circumstance. I'm not excusing mental illness as a reason that she did what she did. She didn't excuse it either. She took it directly under the pretenses that she had done it because life taught her, smacked her down. She got back up. She still didn't appreciate the way that she was treated in life, and she was a victim of her own circumstances. But I don't think she made herself a victim in society, because she did stand up for herself and say, the reason I'm this way is because y'all did this to me. And I think she directed it to where she thought she needed to.
Yeah, I think mental health played a big role in this, and her possibility of borderline personality disorder. No, it doesn't excuse the crime, but it absolutely played a role in this. And if we had known more about this diagnosis during that time period, and the help that is available now was available to her back then, I wonder if it would have even went this far.
Right. The DBT that Anders is talking about helped me tremendously. And it's basically just learning how to redirect your behavior.
Right. Yep.
Yes, Mari. I betrayed by morality. Absolutely. And hello. Yeah, in her own mind, she was definitely correct. In our mind, what most of us that follow and abide by the law or don't end up on that side of the law feel like she was not justified in what she did, but in her mind, she was justified because she felt like she was a victim of her own circumstances. She wasn't stupid. I mean, that
Yep.
was by far not the case. She
By
might have been
any
mentally ill, but she was not dumb.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, I say that all the time. I may have done some stupid things in my life, but I am far from stupid. I am a lot smarter than people gave me credit for.
Absolutely. I've done some really stupid things too, but I'm not stupid
No, you're
most
not.
of the time.
Okay, I gotta hop down because I gotta get hubby ready for work, but you're in my ears, so
Bye,
Okay.
Sheila. Nice to see you, love.
okay, bye guys.
Thank you for coming up. Hey, Amari or Mary, thank you for being here today, love.
All. She knows that Lee is up to something no good.
Anders said, thank you for sharing, Rubber Ramada, and Red Act Ed said that's survival.
Eventually, Cammy asked them to leave, and they did. At the time that they were staying there, they were sleeping in separate beds because of Ty's religion and her belief in God and having a lesbian relationship. But Lee was okay with that. She cared about Ty enough to respect that. But when they got kicked out, they ended up buying a mobile home, a trailer, and traveling. They ended up at this mobile home park, right? And when questioned about them later, people said that the two had quite a reputation for being very tough. They drank a lot. They would walk around in their underwear. They would start fights. They would be extremely loud all the time. Somebody said that looking at Lee was like looking into the eyes of death, that she just had these dead eyes and that she was very scary.
Now, again, at this point, I mean, we've already went through all of the horrific things she's been through in life. She's in active addiction. She's drinking every day. She loves a woman who feels like it's not morally acceptable for her to feel the way she does about other women, which I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, it actually doesn't say anything about that in the Bible. I could be wrong, but from what I've heard, I haven't read the Bible all the way. I know some of it, and we have church on Sundays here in my house because that's a whole nother road I'll probably not go down. But I don't think that, I think if there's a couple of verses that could be taken that way, but again, it just falls into interpretation. And I hate that the woman felt this way and resented herself, because she had to resent herself if she was saying, I can't love you, even though she loved her, because she wanted to be a good Christian. I don't like that at all. I think that God or our higher power loves us all regardless of who we love. And if it was wrong, he wouldn't it wouldn't happen, in my opinion.
They were kicked out of the trailer park. I mean, Lee's been kicked out of a lot of places, but now you're getting kicked out of a trailer park because they were playing like this loud music and constantly drinking and just being completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't want to start a war or anything. I need to look up the verse to be sure, because I would wonder if it's interpretation or what's actually said. Lindsay. Okay, so had to deconstruct it a bit. It mentions it in revised translations of it. See, that's one thing. I will go down this road for a second. We talk about, like, we have a family style church here in our house because in the Bible it does say that you can go in your closet and be saved. We try to go to the Hebrew, like to the original, and we're learning Hebrew so that we can understand the words, because we were doing Jonah and the whale, and the way it's written, like the water can mean life or chaos. So I mean, it's just, again, interpretation. So we try to go back to the original. Anyway, I don't want to get a whole thing going in here, but I think that if God, personally, I think that if we weren't meant to love who we were meant to love, then we wouldn't love them. I think God loves everybody.
So it seems Lee has found her match with Ty, even though Ty was supposed to be this, religious, sweet woman. Well, you'll hear more soon about Ty and exactly who she was. So Lee continued. They ended up losing the trailer somehow, and now they're back staying in motel rooms. And Lee is paying for the motel rooms with no job. It's very believed that Ty knew exactly what Lee was doing, that she was out prostituting herself in order to support the couple. How much exactly did Tyria Moore know about what Lee was doing? My personal opinion is she knew a lot more than she ever admitted to. We're going to get into the men that...
I think that too. I think that too. And Alieen, or Lee, as Chasing endearingly refers to her, you got to keep in mind that she really loved Ty as well, but she's just gotten out of a relationship as well with another woman who said she couldn't be with her because she felt like a bad Christian. So that broke her heart. And then you add on all of the other and the elements of borderline personality disorder, if that's what she had. I'm not a doctor, but the feeling of abandonment, there is no gray. So she's already, considering that she just got out of the other relationship where the woman couldn't love her, that she cared about because she felt like she was a bad Christian. And then she's getting in another relationship with another woman. I mean, that just doubles the fear that she's going to lose this woman that she loves as well. So at this point, I can only imagine that she's willing to do literally anything to keep her and to make money and to not lose this relationship, in my opinion. And I think that definitely contributed to it as well. Yep. Jumping from relationship to relationship is normal too, right? And she just lost someone she really cared about because of her religious beliefs. So she's, again, doing anything she can to keep this woman, in my opinion. Different loves. I love my mom. I love my husband. Different kind of love, I think. Yeah, for sure. Yes, it's written in Greek. I think the original was Hebrew. Pretty sure. That's why we try to go back to Hebrew. I want a zebra cake.
that ultimately lost their lives to Lee and perhaps even to Ty. But I'll let you be the judge of whether you believe that Ty was involved or not. Richard Mallory, 51 years old, was an electronics repair man. He owned an electronics store in Clearwater, Florida. He was a quiet guy. He was a very heavy drinker, like many of the men who Miss Lee has met up with so far. He had a desire for some really kinky things. He was known to be very heavily in debt because he was spending his money on prostitutes for the most part. And due to this need that he had for liquor and drugs and women, he was behind on his rent. He had to be audited soon.
So this is a picture of him on the left and the car on the right. this is going to be the first victim that we know of. And I think I think she admitted to all her victims because they hadn't even tied this man to her until she admitted to it. Bad Girl said Lee was so desperate to be loved and needed. Right, exactly. Yes. Aramaic, yes, it was written in Aramaic too.
Was coming up. His credit cards have been closed and he was paying for everything in cash. He would often close the store early and just take off. So people were kind of used to him not being around. Nobody really thought much of it when he didn't show up at his own place of business. He was also divorced 5 times, maybe due to his strange sexual needs. I'm not really sure why he was divorced, but one night he was in Daytona and he sees Lee, and they get together and they start driving around, and soon he knows exactly what she's doing. Lee and Ty were arguing at this point, so Lee wasn't really in a huge hurry to get back home to her. So them driving around until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning was okay with her. At one point, they pull over after drinking all night long. They're both pretty intoxicated at this point, and he asks her if she wants to make her money now. And he was pretty aggressive about it, according to her. And she told him, you got to cool out. What are you doing? And as the story went.
Now, taking into consideration he's divorced 5 times, he's going to be stressed out because he's in debt. He's only using cash. He's got some substance use issues. He's being audited. He owns a store. It's not even there. At this point in this man's life, if I had to assume, I would say that he's very stressed out, possibly angry, on substances. We know that he's got some kinks. So I genuinely believe that this first time that it happened, he was trying to do something, hurt her, abuse her, not pay her, something to that effect. And I think this was the start of all of it. I think that she was tired of being raped and used and abused and not paid after performing services, because she had already learned that. That's why she said, I get my money up front. She had already been screwed over once before, so she knew to get her money up front. I think she was just tired of it, and she wasn't going to let it happen this time. And then she did what she did by unaliving him, and realized that she didn't have to do these things. She could just unalive them, and that's how it started. But I do think that this first one was self-defense.
And she's the only witness to it, unfortunately. He wanted her to strip her clothes off, but he wasn't going to strip his clothes off. And he wanted her to perform oral sex. So she wanted the money first, and he began to get aggressive. She says that he ended up tying her up and she got loose. Whether this is true or not, I'm not sure. Remember, Lee was pretty tough. One story was that he did not pay her, and that's why they got into it. The other story was he did pay her, but he also raped her. In any case, Lee shot him several times. Then she took his Cadillac and drove it away and left it there. On December 1st of 1989, an officer ended up discovering the car, and from outside looking into the car, he could see that there was blood inside of the car. Now, this had all happened days before. So she took the car, she abandoned the car. Nearby the car was Mallory's wallet with some of his identification in it, as well as condoms and beer cans and other things. And this is December 1st that the car is found. Now, December 13th, some people end up finding Mallory's body.
Michelle Weedle, thank you so much for being here, love. Michelle says, in my opinion, I think it was the girlfriend that made her do these crimes. Chasing Truth, who are watching right now, actually stated that a lot of people believe that the girlfriend was a lot more involved than she originally than what we've been led to believe. I don't know. I know that if I'm not mistaken, she testified against her. I'm sure Zio can let us know for sure because she's studied this case. I've seen the movie and done a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that the girlfriend testified against her, and the police might have felt they needed her to testify, so therefore didn't go down that avenue. But I think that the girlfriend had a lot more to do with it than they originally thought she did or acted like she did during the trial and all of that as well.
Well, not only that, but Tyria was kind of like working with law enforcement during the whole time after her, like up to and during the arrest process. So I don't know if it was like what is the thing that I can think of this closely related to? Okay, the Jen Soto thing, like getting some type of immunity for not, you know what I'm saying, for telling on her and
Yeah.
not so she cooperated with law enforcement after the arrest, and she agreed to work with the police by calling her and persuading her to confess, which we do see in the movie The Monster or whatever. But the calls were recorded, and during the conversations she had Wuronos incriminate herself that they used in court against her. And then she also testified that her relationship and the events leading up to that, you know, like she did have insight to some of it and some of the actions that she knew she was going to do, but she didn't know to which degree. So her testimony and the confessions that she made to uh, Tyria Moore were part of the, you know, part of the subsequent death sentence and conviction for her.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
That bitch. Sorry.
Thank you for that information. Red Act said, I believe Lee wanted to stop the unalivings and Ty wouldn't help out and get a job. Michelle said that I worked at the facility where she's at, and the girlfriend needs to be arrested, in my opinion. That's interesting. Did you ever get to talk to her? Yeah, Ty spent the money and drove the cars, as Red Act said. But I think it was important. Yeah, Anders said, you know, I think it was important for Alieen to get money for her girlfriend. I do too.
Absolutely.
Because she was so scared of losing her.
Well, I mean, think about it. If I know for a fact that you don't have a job allegedly, and then all of a sudden you come home and you have different cars and we're staying in a hotel and somebody's paying for it and you're putting money and dumping on the bed and going, okay, here, babe, do what you need to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You know, it's like obviously in some way or another, I'm gonna go, oh well, you don't have a job, and I know that the Johns don't pay, you know, more than like $20 or $30. I mean, we're not in, you know, Las Vegas. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, obviously she would have had to know. She would have had to know.
Yep.
Yeah, and her cigarette money, and yeah, I absolutely agree.
Reese said, I really want Miss Wuronos to be resting peacefully right now. I don't think she was a monster, just me. I don't either. Michelle Weedle said she was off her rocker and should not have been unlived. Yeah, I wish she hadn't asked for the death penalty. Abellis agrees with Reese. Rubber said, I don't think she was a monster. She just needed love the right way. Right. I think that's all she ever wanted in her life was to be loved. Yeah, and even though she asked for it, I wish they would not have given her the death penalty. And then Anders said, absolutely, Lee was worried about Ty getting her cigarette money. Yep.
I do see like a lot of people that I mean, when I ask the question is why so many women sympathize with Alieen, because at me as a woman, I do sympathize with where she came from, the history of her abuse and the exploitation and the, you know, marginalization and all the things that were happening with her. But I think that her life story sometimes embodies some of the themes of how the system has failed some of us as women. The abuse, the survival, it resonates with the bigger, you know, the broader issues of our gender inequality at the time.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it doesn't matter now, but I mean, seen at the time, you know.
Right, but that's a great question to bring up. Why do women resonate with Alieen Wuronos as opposed to insert a male unaliver that went through similar
Exactly.
things? But I don't know of any male. I mean, but that doesn't mean they're not out there. But I don't know of any male si- unalivers that went through these things to the extent that she did. I could be. I'm sure I'm wrong, but I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I'd have to research that and figure out who in the I think in my personal experience, the person that I have been most drawn to when we're talking about male cases has been Ted Bundy.
Yeah,
And there's a long story behind that, and I'll go over it at some point in time. But the most sympathy that I've garnered, and he was a complete, he was a serial killer. I mean, he is what he is. But
yeah,
the reason that it resonated more with me is partially the way I grew up and the way my family looked at certain parts of this of sexual content, and
right.
with the way I don't know the way he's the only one that I've ever had not I wouldn't want to say sympathy because that's the wrong answer. I just if I've been able to embody the thought process that there's more to it than just what is on paper and more to it than just yeah. Why do
Yeah.
you think Ed Kemper or you relate more to Ed Kemper, Anders? Like not relate to, but you know what I'm saying.
No, but yeah, Ed Kemper, I mean, he would be closely related because of what his mother put him through. So that was a good point. I mean, it's kind of parallel, not exactly the same. I don't think that he would have been sexually abused and, just thrown out like trash, but he is one that did go through a lot in his younger years. And I'm not sure about the story of Ted Bundy. That would be one to talk
It's
about.
just more of a yeah.
I know that he did go through some stuff when he was younger, but I just watched that movie with Zac Efron in it, and I think that's where I got that from. I don't remember what it
I
was.
have not seen that yet, but I definitely want to. Yeah,
It's
I was
good.
gonna say, I wanted you to read that. Michelle, are you saying that you worked at the facility or you were an inmate at the facility and got to know the former
She
girlfriend or
she said she worked at the facility
worked there?
earlier,
Okay, worked.
and she now said I was at the facility, but she was off her rocker. Her former girlfriend, in my opinion, allegedly told her to do these crimes to pay the bills. And
Okay.
then Red Act Ed said Lee messed up by meeting a Christian bisexual. And that's a good point. I wonder if she hadn't just gotten out of that relationship where this woman was so concerned about her Christianity that she wouldn't let herself love who she loved and therefore told Lee that she couldn't love her and she couldn't be with her. I wonder if Lee would have been quite as obsessed with Ty and making sure she didn't leave had she not just got out of that situation, because I really think that Alieen was so like scared to death that Ty was going to leave her, especially considering what had just happened. I'm going to scroll down. Bundy's parents were more loving, said Sally. Michelle said, yes, I worked there. Um, and Michelle said, in my opinion, Alieen was told to do these things to accommodate the girlfriend, allegedly. Yeah.
In the later years, I mean, of course, the film
So
Monster came
they
out in
stumbled.
2003. Sorry, you're good.
Sorry, baby. What did you
No,
say?
you're fine. I was just gonna say in later years, the portrayal in the media was different because that film, Monster, it just came out in 2003. And I say just because it seems like 2003 wasn't that long ago, but in theory, it wasn't. But it dramatizes her life and then it humanized her because it focused on all the things that were happening, everything that made her vulnerable, and it
Mhm.
actually showed the love that she had for Tyria.
Yep.
So, and then of course Charlize Theron did absolutely. I mean, that's why she won the Oscar for it. But she absolutely did the most fantastic job in a performance in that movie. Like, so I think that probably also helps with deepening like public empathy for her.
Yep, and Christina Ricci played Ty. Charlize Theron did a great job in that movie, though, and it
So
did
good, so good.
it gave the human aspect to Alieen that we needed, in my opinion. And like that's how I knew about this case was from that movie. I was in.
What, Reese? What the heck are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, that
I
is
think I would.
crazy.
If you know about it, somebody else is bound to put it out there somewhere. Where did that come from?
stumble across that, and there wasn't really a lot of attention given to Mallory's case at all. I mean, he was no longer a married man. He wasn't very well liked, so Lee was able to get away with it for a while. It's said that when Lee got back home to Ty, she ended up giving her a scarf that belonged to Mallory and some other items. On December 6th, before Mallory's body is even found, Lee takes some of the equipment that she found in Mallory's car and goes to the pawn shop with it. I think a camera and a radar detector. She got $35, but her thumbprint was required. So now her thumbprint was on file.
Yes, Anders. Yes. Thank you for reminding me of that. Bundy was born in one of the homes for unwed mothers, and he was adopted by a very loving family, or the grandparents took him. I can't remember which. But yes, he was born in one of the homes for unwed mothers. Yep.
For pawning Mallory's stuff. Unfortunately, nobody really looked for Mallory's stuff. His employees weren't very concerned that he was gone. The police were not putting out this huge investigation. So they discovered his body, his identification. They did not connect it to the car, nor did they connect it to the pawn shop, which had Lee's fingerprint in it. On Friday, May 18th, 1990, David Spear was traveling on I-75 in Tampa. He saw Lee hitchhiking, and he pulled over to pick her up. Lee was needing to go in the exact opposite direction of where Spear was headed, but he said that he would take her, that becoming a 150-mile round trip for him, but he was a very nice man, so he said that he would do it. Lee would be the last person to ever see David alive again. His body was found on June 1st.
These are the victims of hers, and I want us to just take a minute to remember them and their families. Abellis, Bundy did come from a good family, but it was either his grandparents. It was his grandparents, if I'm not mistaken. His mother gave birth to him in a home for unwed mothers. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he was raised as a brother to his sister, and then later in life found out that his sister was actually his mother. Because I think that the grandparents took him in and raised him as their child after the mother gave birth to him in the home for unwed women, if I remember correctly. And Zio just dropped the link for Chasing Truth again. Thank you so much, love.
Several weeks later, he was nude and his body was badly decomposed. He was identified through dental records, unfortunately. He died from 6 bullet wounds to the torso. His truck was located and the driver's seat was pulled up very close to the steering wheel. And this is something that we'll notice in each of the situations. Every time the seat is pulled up, and David was 6 feet 4 inches tall. Lee was 5'4". Now, I hadn't said that before. She was only 5'4". She was a small woman. She was not very big at all. And for whatever reason, and however she did it, whether it was alone or with Ty, I'm still not convinced, but she was able to kill these men. So David's body is discovered. The next person, May 1990, is 40-year-old Charles, or Chuck. His last name is a little bit difficult, Carskadon. He was traveling from Missouri to Tampa to pick up his fiancée. Chuck made the fatal mistake, like the rest of these men, of picking up Lee. She claimed she killed him in self-defense, but she switched the story to it was also for money, and then back to self-defense. She says that she shot him 9 times because as they were getting ready to have sex, prostitution.
I think that some of them legitimately were self-defense. And I think after she did the first one that was actually self-defense, it kind of snapped in her head that she could take control. She could have the power in the situation. And she didn't have to use her body and be hurt anymore and get the money that way. And I think that's what happened.
She saw his .45 caliber gun on the hood of his car or on the roof of his car, and she assumed that he was going to kill her. So she shot him 9 times. In June of 1990, Peter Seams was a 65-year-old retired merchant seaman living in Jupiter, Florida. He was deeply religious. Neighbors often saw him loading up his car with Bibles and flyers to go out and spread the word. It's just what he did. He had plans of driving to Arkansas and New Jersey to visit family. He still had his car loaded up with the Bibles, though. He was supposed to call his wife during the trip, but the call never came because he had run across Lee. Possibly Ty. This is where the Ty theory comes in for me. I'm not 100% sure, but there were witnesses after this whole situation, 2 months.
Now, this is going to go back to what Michelle was saying, who she stated that she worked in the prison where Alieen was at and stated that the girlfriend definitely had more to do with it. But again, like Zaya said, they used the girlfriend to get her to admit to what she had done. So again, I mean, I related to the Jen Soto thing. And then, I'm sorry. Red Act Ed said some of these men picked her up to give her a ride. They did, in my opinion, said Red Act Red. Reese thinks that some of them picked her up because they knew they could do whatever they wanted. And again, like I stated at the beginning of this, at the time, when you're using your body, you're not exactly going to go to the police and be like, hey, this man raped me, can I press charges? Especially in that period, just like you wouldn't say, hey, this man stole my rugs. Can you get them back for me? You know what I mean? The police would have not done anything to help her. So, I mean, at that point in time, in the time period, men could pick up women and do whatever they wanted. That's why I believe that some of it was self-defense. I think it was more common than we think for them to have really hurt these ladies. Michelle said, I've been at death row to accomplish my job at the facility. Lee had a tiny cell window looking out into a personal parking lot. The wall felt like they were sweating. Oh my goodness.
Months after he disappeared, a call came in about an abandoned car. And this abandoned vehicle turned out to be Peter's car. There was a bloody print inside of the car that was not tested. The car had been crashed by Lee and Ty, according to witnesses. And they claimed the driver was Ty, not Lee. So I guess when the crash happened, they kind of went off down into a ditch and then jumped out of the car, and somebody tried to help them and they just screamed at them, to leave them alone. But all the while there were witnesses sitting on a porch that saw all of this go down. So they were both drinking, of course. The really sad part is Peter's body was never located. He was one of the ones who were never located. I'm thinking there were more victims than this. I don't know if she just stopped at these men, but as of right now.
And again, going on the other aspect of that, these men were completing in the process or in the act of doing illegal activities. So is it possible that more of them just disappeared and she's not admitted to the crimes and there's more victims out there? Absolutely. I definitely think there could be more out there. Because I think some of these, at least, I know that she told them she did. They had not tied her to the crime at the time.
Now, all of the ones that they know about, the bodies have been recovered, all except for Peter. In July of 1990, Eugene Troy Burris, he was a part-time salesman for a sausage delivering company. He was reliable. He was very happy. He was traveling, and he was supposed to report to his office at the end of the day. That never happened, obviously. And this was very much unlike him. So his manager called his wife. His wife ends up reporting him missing. He was a very responsible family guy. There was no way that he wouldn't have done what he was supposed to do. The police response was very fast, and his van was located within a few miles of where he was supposed to be. The van was locked. The keys were missing, of course. And a week later, a family stumbled across Troy's body in a park. According to Lee, we find out later on, Troy picked her up, took her into the woods, and told her to strip. Threw $10 at her and told her that that was all she was worth. So she shot him in the chest. And because she was mad.
Now, again, if he actually did say that, threw $10 at her and said that's all you're worth, go back to her grandfather when we were talking about him beating her and telling her that she's worthless and not worth the air that she's breathing. Did it trigger something in her when he said that's all you're worth?
At the insult, she shot him in the back as well. On September 12th of 1990, two young boys riding their bikes came across the body of Charles Richard Humphreys. He was a 56-year-old child abuse investigator.
This one is the one that I felt sorry for this man, this one in particular. Michelle, whose podcast did you just find? If you just found ours, I'm glad you're here. I was wondering if you were talking about ours over here or somebody else's. Yeah, to come upon a deceased. Yeah, that would be scary.
He also was trying to do good by helping children, but he had been shot 6 times. And several counties were investigating what was going on with all of these other cases. They ended up finding Humphrey's car abandoned near a gas station. And what we do know that happened is he left his office on September 11th, and he only had a very short drive home. It would not have been long at all. So on his way home, he has to pass by this convenience store. And
Michelle, yeah, we talked about that earlier in the stream, and I'm so glad you found us over here. Thank you for hanging out with us, and thank you for subscribing and giving a thumbs up. Thank you.
Around 4 p.m., according to receipts, he did. The 2 people who were in the store were Lee and Ty. It's assumed that he ended up giving them a ride, and he was killed, much like everybody else. Walter Antonio was 60 years old. He was a trucker and also had a side job as a reserve police officer. He was on his way to drive to Alabama. He was recently engaged. He was a happy guy. He was driving a maroon Pontiac Grand Prix. He was wearing a gold and silver diamond ring, which was a gift from his fiancée. On November 19th of 1990, he's found dead near a remote logging road in Lee's typical dumping grounds. He was found nearly nude. He had been shot 4 times. Police said his car was found 5 days later in a completely different county, but before it was...
I wonder if she made them strip nude to dehumanize them, or if she did it while they were in the act. Like, I would think that if she knew, like, by this time she knows what she's going to do and what her intent is, So she's not even getting to the point of committing the act of what they're trying to do with her. So I wonder if she made them strip nude and left them that way as a way to dehumanize them, because she didn't do it to everybody either. So did she hold more hostility towards these people in particular? And if you look at the victims that she has up here, most of them are a lot older than her, except for these two. These two look like they might have been around her age, but the rest of them look relatively older than what she was at the time, which again tells us a lot.
Was found there. It had been parked at the motel that Lee and Ty were staying at. Lee told the clerk that it was her boyfriend's car, and he was married, so he didn't want anybody to know. So she just needed to park it there for a little bit. That came out later. Also, the gold and silver diamond ring that he was wearing, Lee ended up giving that, allegedly, to Tyra as a gift.
Hello? Hi. Yes. Yeah.
I was muted. Yeah, I just tried to do, I was going to tell you, I tried to do a poll, but like when I go onto my channel on my phone, it doesn't even show me that I'm live right now. It's been doing that since I got YouTube Premium. So like I can't access the chat from my phone. And I don't have the option on StreamYard to do a poll. So until I figure that out, I'll have to ask y'all in chat. I wanted to read what that said real quick. So let me back it up just a smidge to read what was written. It states, how did Lee ultimately get caught and convicted? With a bit of help from her one true love. And this was her one true love who they think.
What? I'm not going to let you go to jail. You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're going to let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do? I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying. I can't help it. I'm scared shitless. I know. I love you a lot. I don't know.
Yes, these are the recorded phone calls from that happened in court. So the police got to Ty, and they had her record phone calls and basically get Alieen to admit to the crime. And I was actually going to pull up some other lives. But I think tomorrow we can go over the case, like we can go over the trial and everything set in court as far as this case goes. And, you know, interviews with her after court and things like that. I think that would be a good live for tomorrow to go over what happened in court and life after death, as they state, because she was on death row and all of that. I think that's going to be what we do tomorrow.
Know whether I should keep on living or if I should. No, Ty. What if they don't believe me?
And I mean, again, listen to how she's talking to her. Like, it's okay. Do what you got to do. Listen. No, calm down. Listen to me. Listen, baby. Like, I mean, I feel so bad for her. I really do. I know I'm probably bad for that, but I really do feel bad for Alieen.
What? Why did you do this? Listen, Ty. What? I'll probably never.
Look at her, even crying, listening to it.
Yes, I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will. Okay. Don't worry, okay?
She said, if I have to go down for this just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will. Hold on a minute. So that's going back. I'm sorry. I hate to back it up, but I want us to, at least that last part, we need some closed captions. We'll go back to the beginning. It wasn't that much. Let's listen to some closed captions with this, because that goes back to what Michelle and others have been saying about how she was more involved than they like to say she was. I turned closed captions on, so hopefully we can get a better understanding of what's being said, because this is when they had the phones tapped and Alieen didn't know she was being recorded. Okay, she's saying, honey, listen, do what you got to do. And then Ty is saying, I'm going to go to jail for something that you did. This isn't fair. Like, again, she's taking the lead and trying to calm her down. Real quick while we're paused, this is how she got Alieen to keep doing what she was doing. Bad girl said, why do you think the love of your life would set you up? Yeah. Oh yeah, well, I could do a 1 or 2. But I think we all agree. You guys let me know in the chat if you think that, actually we'll do this one. Do you think Ty was more involved than everybody thinks that she was? So you can say yes, you think she was more involved, or no, you don't think she was.
Here, my family is a nervous wreck up there. My mom has been calling me all the time. She doesn't know what the hell's going on.
Okay. You gotta do, okay? Alrighty.
What?
I'm not gonna let you go to jail.
You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're gonna let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do?
I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying.
I can't help it. I'm scared shitless.
I know. I love you a lot.
I don't know whether I should keep on living.
This girl, she's like, you don't love me, you don't trust me, and she's sitting here the whole time saying, you do what you got to do, I love you, trying to calm her down. Right. Selfish much? Right, Zio. So let me see. Zio said yes, she thinks that Ty was more involved. Abellis before that said Ty effed her over more than anyone did. Yep. Zio thinks she was more involved. Red Act Ed said Ty is manipulative. Red Act Ed said yes, she was more involved. Bad Girl said yes, I think she knew. Trixie said I do, as in she was more involved. Michelle said yes, absolutely. Zio said selfish much. Bad Girl said exactly Abellis. Trixie said yes. And then Zio said emotional manipulation. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Or if I should...
No, Ty, listen.
What if they don't believe me?
Ty, listen.
What?
I'm not gonna let you go to jail or anything. Listen, I have to...
She said, listen, I don't know why the closed captions aren't coming up, but she said, listen, I'm not going to let you go to jail or anything. And then she said, listen, I have to. And then Sally said, I believed he had knowledge at the very least. Plea deal. Yeah, but she's the one who said that, I put me on death row, execute me for my crimes. Yep. Red Act Ed said Ty didn't do the dirty work. She kept her hands clean. However, Ty spent the money. Yep. Threatening to unalive herself too. Yep. So Alieen, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, I just was saying, Tyria Moore did not face any charges related to this because apparently they just didn't have enough to charge her with any crimes in connection with it, because there wasn't enough evidence to prove that she was directly involved or had any culpability for the actual unalivings. Although they were in a relationship, the prosecution didn't think that they would be able to pursue charges against Moore, and that there was no clear evidence that she had knowledge or was involved in the crimes at the time that they occurred. I disagree with that part of the she had knowledge part, but it is what it is. They said that she cooperated with law enforcement, included wearing the wire to record conversations with her and Lee, where she, of course, made the incriminating statements that we've already talked about. So a lot of people think that she had a lot more involvement, and she was seen, more of a witness that helped expose her actions instead of a participant in the crimes.
Right.
They're saying are you saying you're asking if Tyria took a plea deal, because she was never charged with anything to take one?
Yeah. Red Act Red said Ty knows how to play the victim. The first to speak walks. Yeah. I think they saw Ty. I think they knew they could get her to talk and scare her, because she's talking about how they've been up to my mom's. They're talking to my family. she's scared, and I think the police zoned in on that. Okay. So she just said, I'm not going to let you go to jail. Pack it up just a smidge so we can hear it.
Definitely don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're going to let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do.
I said I'm not. Listen, quit crying.
I can't help it. I'm scared shitless.
I know. I love you a lot.
I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should.
No, Ty, listen.
What if they don't believe me?
I swear, I know she said, I'm not going to let you go to jail for anything. And I swear she said, if I have to confess, I will.
She did. That is what she said. If I have to confess, I will.
Okay.
That's up to that conversation. She hadn't admitted to that yet.
Okay. Thank you.
Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this?
Listen, Ty.
Wait.
I'll probably never be able to see you.
Yes.
I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will.
Okay.
Don't worry, okay?
I swear, she said, if I have to confess to everything to keep you from getting in trouble, I will. And then don't worry. Right,
She sure did. Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right.
That's what I thought. I mean, that's telling me that she knew way more, in my opinion.
Okay.
So they
Notice at the end, okay, bye. No tear. I mean, just the end of the conversation. Do it right now. Get it over with. And then crying in tears and everybody. And then it's just, okay, bye. Listen to her say, okay, bye.
Alieen told her 3 times on that phone call. 3 times that I counted just from what I was listening to that she loved her. And the response was not even reciprocated in any way whatsoever. Which that it's hard to judge based on one conversation and not ever seeing them together of who was the dominant person in the relationship, because by all accounts, from everything we've seen, Alieen was supposed to be the dominant person in the relationship. But if you think about it from a psychological standpoint, she was probably the more submissive type. Even though she was asserting dominance over these men and taking their lives, it's because she was the submissive type.
Right.
And she had always been the submissive, person. And I believe just from everything I've ever read that she was submissive to Tyria. She was not the dominant person in the relationship. She was doing what she was told to do. And I'm not saying that Tyria told her to go out and unalive men, but I'm saying she knew about it, and she wasn't, she didn't have no problem telling her to go out and do what she needed to do to get what they needed to get.
Yep.
Just my opinion. That's completely 100% my opinion.
Right, but no, I definitely see it, and you pointed out, no, I love you or nothing, and when she said bye, her voice was completely normal, and get it over with, do it now. There's no I love you. There's no come here and talk to me. Let me see you one more time before you do this, so I can say goodbye to you. None of that. Like Indie Girl said, yeah, and if she knew she was innocent, why freak out about them questioning her? Yep. Jen said, had to take a call. How dare someone interrupt speculating family time? Aw, we love you. Adela's heart's breaking. Bad Girl said, no, I love you or nothing. Red Act Ed said, FBI was listening. Traitor, snitch. Laugh out loud. Yeah.
Exactly. Redacted's a person after my own heart.
Yep. It's frustrating because she was trying to comfort her, and the girl was just like, just go ahead and get it over with. Go turn yourself in. You can call me later. Like, what?
And she said, right at this very moment, she said, yeah, right now. Get it done with.
Like, no, come and see me and let me hold you one more time. None of that. Just do it now. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly, Michelle. Like, where was she going to think that they just borrowed it from the cousin that they never saw or never talked to?
Yeah. Right. Yep. Michelle said Ty was in a vehicle that belonged to an unalive person. Ty knew, in my opinion. Yep, I think so too.
So there we are. Ty ended up working with the police to throw Lee under the bus. Now, if you listen to that closely, you'll hear Lee whispering, "I'd confess to everything so that you wouldn't get in trouble." When the police located Ty,
Absolutely. That's what I heard as well.
she had items belonging to Humphreys and Reed in her possession. Additionally, a book deal and a movie deal were discussed with Ty by officers who were going to act as consultants.
What? Skirt. What? They were discussing book deals and movie deals before this even happened? Like before she got her to confess? Pump the mother trucking brakes. What? Officers? Wow.
So we're going to listen to a little bit of that too.
Now, ultimately, you ended up calling Rosie and Santi about that, didn't you?
We're going to watch the trial tomorrow, everything I can find on it, and then some of her interviews after the trial. So we'll watch all of this tomorrow.
I believe so.
Ms. Jean Santi, we spoke to her before. She is, in fact, an agent with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Is she not?
Yes, she is.
And she's one of those individuals who was in the motel room with you before.
Correct.
And Ms. Jean Santi, you like to talk to her about things like that, right? And she was somebody you trust.
Correct.
And you called her and asked her opinion on the book and movie deals.
Correct.
And when you did that, you spoke with her about some monetary figures.
Something that, yeah, it was mentioned.
In fact, the figure mentioned is $50,000, correct?
That could have been, yes.
Ultimately,
That could have been.
Lee is put to death.
Yeah. Why are the police talking about a book deal before they even arrest the woman like that? This is,
Well, they were trying to show motive for her throwing her under the bus. By that point, it wasn't going to matter anyway. She'd already confessed to it.
Yeah. But I mean, again, they're just, everybody around her is just victimizing her again.
Okay, so you know me better than most here. So I think you know what I'm fixing to say.
Maybe.
And I have to think about this and take the feelings out of it, right? Did she deserve the sentence that was given to her? So if you look at the case strictly legally and objectively, the arguments are of an easy nature, right? The nature of the crimes. She premeditated and involved the unaliving of multiple men, where she claims self-defense in some cases, but the evidence presented during her trial suggested that it was not all self-defense. Like you said, we're going to watch that. The severity of her offenses, the number of people that she brutally unalived, and the way that the crimes, contribute to the severity of her sentence. Because a lot of people believe that serial unalivings deserve a higher form of punishment, obviously, right?
Right.
And then the arguments against the death sentence would be the mental health issues she had, the background of her abuse and her trauma, the coercion, by her partner, and the fairness in her trial, because some people say that it was not conducted fairly because her legal representation, number one, was inadequate, which probably impacted the outcome of her sentencing. But anyway, from just a purely legal standpoint, she did commit the crimes. Were they legally justified in giving her the death penalty under Florida law at that time? I mean, unfortunately, given the history of her trauma and her, psychological state and the coercion and all that kind of stuff, I think it was overly harsh. And a life sentence should have been, without the possibility of parole, would have been more appropriate.
I think so.
You can debate whether she deserved her sentence or not by, just by basing it on the criminal justice and the ethics part. But ultimately, the question of whether she deserved the death penalty seems really complex, and I think it should have been vacated.
Yeah, I think we do have to ask, if it had been a man who did these crimes, would it have been more justifiable or even acceptable by us for them to receive the death penalty, because if we're looking at it from a legal standpoint, she absolutely deserved the death penalty, but that's not taking into account her traumas and all of the
Right.
things that led to this, which is something I can't do. I think she should have got life without parole.
Right.
But legally, absolutely. And if it had been a man, would we feel different about it?
Exactly.
It's a good question and a good point to bring up.
She's convicted and she is put to death. Was she fairly put to death? Probably. She did the crime several times. But my main problem is Ty. I feel like she knew the whole time, every murder. Where in the world does she think that Lee was coming up with all of this stuff as a prostitute? She was out purchasing these cars and driving them back to the motels. Diamond rings, scarves, cameras, radar detectors. She was giving them to Lee and to Ty as gifts. Where did she think she was getting them? I don't know. You can.
And the car that she was driving around in was from a victim. Michelle said right before her death, she stated aliens were coming for her. And she did indeed. Zio shared that with me, and that's part of what we'll talk about tomorrow. Yeah, I agree, Red Act.
And then I looked it up because I was
clearly
trying to
see her face.
Sorry, love.
No. If you want, go ahead and finish this. I'll say what I was going to say right after.
Okay.
As she's testifying, and I can't play a lot of that here because court TV is not too free with their footage, but I will put it in the description if you'd like to watch the trial yourself. It's a crazy story. Betrayed by the one she truly loved. Betrayed by her parents, her dad, who was a disgusting man, her mom, who left her with her grandparents who didn't tell her that they were her grandparents, her brother who passed away. I don't know. Sometimes you can look at these cases and really feel like maybe this person was created. You know, maybe they weren't just born absolutely psychotic. You never really know. But in any case, I don't think it was fair for just...
I wanted to read what this says real quick, that the lovely Chasing it up here. Trying to get that off the bottom, but it says, yes, in quotation marks, yes, I would just like to say I'm selling with The Rock and I'll be back, like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like the movie, big mothership and all. I'll be back. I'll be back. She died at 9:47 a.m. October 9th of 2002.
To be executed. I think Ty knew just as much. Let me know what you think down in the comments.
What a fantastic, yeah, that was fantastic. I love the way Chasing put that together. I love the way that she always uses a chance to talk about the victims in all situations, regardless of how we feel about Lee. But she definitely does give all precedence to the victims as well. So
yes, and like we always say, please say a prayer for the victims of this, and all over the world. Again, this is Chasing. Please give her a like and subscribe. Sorry, Zio, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to talk about what they said was the post-trial life of Tyria Moore. And they said that as of the latest information, after the trial, she largely stayed out of the public eye since her arrest and her execution. She, subsequent to her execution in 2002, she retreated from the spotlight, has kept a very low profile. She's not participated in public interviews or media appearances, and has kept all of the details of her life private. during the trial. She was a key witness after the trial. Reportedly, she lived in Florida for a while, but eventually moved away. She's been described as living under a different name to avoid media attention and public recognition. And while there have been rumors about her life since the trial, there's been no verified information. Some accounts suggest that she may be involved in community work or tried to distance herself from her past. However, none of these claims have been substantiated or confirmed.
Okay.
But there we go.
Well, I mean, I think she should have gotten in trouble. I definitely think she had more to do with it. And we'll visit that tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to go over the trial and things that have happened since the trial. Michelle said she also stated that her food was being poisoned. That happens a lot in prisons. Bad Girl said, I read Ty is married now. Probably.
Interesting. I was wondering myself too if she could be prosecuted for any involvement in the crime at a later time. And Florida has a statute of limitations for most crimes, especially those related to felony charges like this. And so they said it would be unlikely. But during the trial, this is something I looked for and could not find until just now. Moore was granted immunity from prosecution in exchange for her testimony. It means that she could not be prosecuted for crimes related to the unalivings based on her own statements and involvement as a witness. Immunity agreements are typically binding and are intended to protect witnesses from future prosecution for their testimony. So I did not know, and I was looking for that. So there's the confirmation right there. She was granted immunity from prosecution.
Okay.
I did not know that. All this, I've never been able to find anything that had any concrete proof that she was.
So I wonder if she still told the truth, because evidently not, if she didn't ever, state that she had more to do with it.
Or they didn't put it up and they weren't going to put it in trial to make it any easier for her.
Right. Right.
That's crazy.
Well, I want to thank you for coming up today, and we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow for sure. So
bye, chat. Thank you for having me up, and I'm super excited to talk about this, and not because of the bad, the ugly nature of the crime, but just because I like the debate on this. A laser beam.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about a laser beam. Yeah, I like the debate that we have and the conversations that all of these cases allow us to have. I love our speculating fan and how you guys are so open and we're able to talk about things. And even though we don't always agree all the time, everybody's able to talk about these things. And, we're able to voice our opinions, even if we don't agree, and talk about it. Because you never know, somebody might feel one way and then they read your comment or hear your side of something and they might change the way they feel. Thank you, Michelle, for subscribing. I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again, Zaya, for coming up. You always have the information and share such great insight. Thank you, guys. I will see y'all tomorrow and we will go over trial and life after death, as I will call it. I got that from the West Memphis 3. Have the best day ever.
Bye.